We're gonna start by cooking some hickory smoked bacon. Let the bacon cook, and we'll keep the bacon fat, and we'll cook some other things in the bacon fat. So we're gonna let that go. This is actually gonna be creme fraiche, Dijon mustard, and a little bit of hot sauce. Well, you get a little creaminess there, a little bit of spiciness. This is gonna be our condiment for our French toast. Now we're gonna make the custard that we're gonna actually soak the bread in. So it's gonna be 3 eggs and an egg yolk. Then some half and half. Grated Parmesan Reggiano. Let's flip our bacon. Nice and crispy. And we're gonna get our bacon out of the pan. We're gonna keep that beautiful bacon fat. And we're gonna cook the red onions with some mustard greens. Toss the red onions right into the bacon fat. Here are the mustard greens, and they should really just kind of wilt. Just a splash of cider vinegar. Gonna wilt them down. Just a little splash of honey there. So we have our mustard greens and red onions. So I have a pain de mie, which is basically a fancy French phrase for good quality white bread. We're gonna start by smearing a little bit of Dijon mustard and creme fraiche and the hot sauce mixture. A couple of pieces of cheese, some Gruyere cheese, it's a Swiss cheese, and then some crispy bacon. Then we have our mustard greens with our red onions and a little bit of cider vinegar. I'm gonna close this bad boy up. And then we're gonna soak it for about 30 seconds on each side. All right, so we're gonna turn this over and let the other side soak. So we're gonna take a little canola oil and just a little bit of butter. Right in there. So, here's the key. You want the custard to cook inside the bread. And at the same time, you want all the other ingredients to kind of warm through. They're all cooked already, but we just need the cheese to melt a little bit. And flip this over. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Really strong, robust flavors. Smoked bacon, that's sort of spicy mustard green. And then the Gruyere cheese, just a little sharp, kind of brings it all together. Eggs Benedict with apple sausage. I'm gonna grate some onions and the apple, and I'm gonna add a little garlic, and we're gonna saute that for our sausage. We wanna get a lot of flavor into our ground pork. So I'm gonna saute these vegetables with a little bit of canola oil. While we're at it, we'll give the apples a little cook too. It's really easy to make your own breakfast sausage. You just take your ground pork and just season it. A little bit of cayenne, some salt and pepper, some sage, some fresh thyme. And then I can take my onions, garlic, and apple, a little bit of maple syrup. I'm gonna put this back in the refrigerator. Let all these flavors kind of get together. I'm gonna take 3 eggs, 3 egg yolks. I like to cook my eggs right on top of the stove in a metal bowl. Obviously, they're gonna get nice and light. We wanna create a ribbon when we do that, so that it all stays together. Now, I'm gonna take some clarified butter. We're gonna slowly add to the cooked egg yolks so that they emulsify. If you add it too quickly, it's gonna separate, and really you're gonna have to start over. Add a little bit of lemon juice, a little hot sauce, some Dijon mustard, and some whole grain mustard for a little bit of texture. The mustard is also gonna thicken the hollandaise up a little bit. A little salt and pepper. We're gonna make our patties. These are probably gonna take about 3 minutes on one side and a couple of minutes on the other. Let's get the English muffins in the toaster, and then we'll talk about the poached eggs. You have some water that's steaming, and then you take some distilled vinegar, and that's gonna actually help the poached eggs coagulate. Just gonna use a little ramekin. Just in case I break the egg, I'm not gonna have to fish it out of the water. I'm gonna take a couple of English muffins, some of our pork and apple sausage right on top, and then we're gonna take a couple of eggs, our beautiful poached eggs, and then some hollandaise sauce. Put a little bit right on top. We're gonna make a syrup with the mangoes and the pineapples. And then we're going to just dice this up. Now, it doesn't have to be that uniform because we're gonna puree this anyway. So I'm just gonna kind of coarsely chop up the mangoes and the pineapples. So the pineapple, you wanna cut this off. You wanna cut the eyes of the pineapple out. So we're just gonna coarsely chop it up. Pancakes is just a vehicle for lots of different options when it comes to fruits. So a couple cups of water. About 1.5 cups of sugar. And this is gonna make our tropical fruit syrup. All right, I'm gonna let that all cook together. Now we're gonna make some pancakes. It's gonna be 1.5 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar. It's just gonna give it a little bit of that rich molasses flavor. Then a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Pinch of salt. And I'm just gonna mix this up with a fork. Okay, the wet ingredients. A couple of eggs. 1.5 cups of buttermilk, some vanilla extract, and then 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. It's melted, so it will incorporate into the wet ingredients. Okay, so I'm gonna add the wet into the dry, just until it gets to that point where it's mixed. If there's a few lumps in there, it's okay. And we're gonna let this sit for a little while. So now that our syrup has sort of incorporated with our fruits, and the fruits are now a little bit soft, we're actually going to just puree the pineapples and the mangoes as best we can. Just be careful when you use this because this is very, very hot liquid, especially the fact that there's sugar in here. Nothing gets hotter than sugar. Add a little bit of honey to this because the honey will actually bring out the natural flavors of the pineapple and the mango and also give it a little bit of that syrupy consistency as well. We're gonna let the syrup cook for a little bit longer, about 15 more minutes. So we're gonna make a mascarpone whipped cream to go on top of the tropical pancakes. All right, so we're gonna start with some mascarpone cheese, a little bit of heavy cream, and then some confectioner's sugar. You can see it's getting nice and thick. You can see that? That's perfect. And just a splash of vanilla. Okay. So we're gonna make silver dollar pancakes. Now you can make bigger pancakes if you'd like. When there's lots of bubbles, you know there's a chance it's time to turn them over. You can cheat and peek a little bit. I'm gonna actually strain the syrup because there's lots of fibers in the mangoes and the pineapples. We just want a finer syrup. And a little bit of orange zest. And just a splash of lemon juice to kind of freshen it up. Some mangoes and the pineapples, give it a little texture. Let's grab our pancakes. Take our syrup, a little bit of powdered sugar. We get our mascarpone whipped cream. I'm gonna put it around the outside because otherwise the hot syrup is just gonna melt it. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take some hot sausage and some sweet sausage. And then we're gonna also need some onions and some garlic. Crush our garlic up. And you wanna crush this very well. Then we're gonna take our sausage. I'm gonna take it out of the casing. I'm gonna take a little bit of butter. Then our onions. Our garlic. I'm gonna take some sweet red and yellow peppers. Dice these up as well. And these are raw, so we want to cook these a little bit. Then we're going to take our sausage. I'm going to saute our sausage right with the onions, the garlic, and the peppers. And this is where a lot of the flavor is going to come in. Now you can use Idaho potatoes if you wanted to. New potatoes, fingerling potatoes, any kind of potatoes you want. But what I suggest is that you cook them first. You can either boil them in water, which is what we did here, or you can roast them or bake them in the oven. And then what I like to do is just kind of dice them like this, because I want to get as much surface area of the potato exposed to the griddle so we get a nice sort of crusty texture. We're going to season this with some salt and pepper, and then some paprika as well. I'm going to coarsely chop some flat leaf Italian parsley. I'm going to use a little bit of rosemary as well. You know, rosemary is a very strong flavor. You always hear me say, like, always add the fresh herbs at the very end. The one exception might be rosemary, just because it's not a bad idea to kind of let the rosemary cook get a little softer and also kind of mellow in flavor just a little bit. So I'm gonna put a little bit of the rosemary in right now. And we'll save the parsley for the very end. Okay, so if you notice, I haven't really touched this yet because I really want the potatoes and the onions and the sausage to really, sort of get a really nice crust on the outside. And if I keep moving it around, that's not gonna happen. You can see some of the potatoes are starting to get a really good crust on the outside. It smells amazing. See how nice and crusty it's getting on the underside? So now we try to flip the potatoes that have not been flipped on this side, and we do the same thing on the other side. And if the potatoes start to break up a little bit, that's good. I don't want al dente home fries. No interest. So we're gonna put some parsley on top, and we're just gonna fold this in, and then we're done. And you see the parsley at the very end just adds a really nice hint of freshness. Okay. Gorgeous. Maybe just like a little sort of splattering of extra virgin olive oil. So, you like French toast, right?
I love bread. I love bread.
All right, so we got some sugar here.
Mm-hmm.
Some vanilla bean. How about some half and half?
Let's do it.
Here, put enough of that in there. And then some orange liqueur, please.
Yes, yes.
A little bit of orange zest. So this challah bread has been toasted in an oven, 350 degrees, dried out a little bit.
Whoa, what are you doing?
I'm gonna pour it right over it.
Oh, this is different.
What do you mean?
We usually do the dunk method. You're just gonna
No,
lay it
I want
up
it to soak because I want it to get all the way through. Yeah.
I've never seen this before, so it's just gonna soak it up.
It's gonna soak it up.
Flip it?
And we're gonna flip it in about 15 minutes. So butter and brown sugar and a little bit of water. Let that melt away, and then we're gonna make some drunken strawberries.
What are we doing? Are we macerating these joints?
We're gonna cut them in half. So it just opens up the juices a little bit, and then we're gonna add some orange liqueur and some sugar.
Yeah.
And sugar will dissolve. So you wanna flip these for me?
Yeah, I got you.
And we're gonna let that sit for another 30 minutes.
Done.
And check this out. Then we're gonna take our caramel, our brown sugar caramel, put it on our silk pad here.
So walk me through this. So this is gonna be the bottom.
Well, this will be the top.
When we flip it.
Exactly.
I get
exactly.
this. I get this.
All right, so basically the creme brulee, obviously creme is the cream. So that would be.
The brulee is that torch.
Well, the brulee it means burnt cream.
I know, yeah.
So this would be the sugar or the brulee part, and this is obviously the custard or the cream part.
I really love your technique here. I've never made French toast like this, where first I'm soaking it in a pan instead of doing the flip game.
Exactly.
And then I'm placing it on top of the most sweet, cushiest bottom ever, which is caramel sauce.
This is gonna be really cool.
I'm excited.
Rich and delicious. All right, let's go to the oven.
So these go in the oven. How much?
375 for 25 minutes.
I'm really excited about this because, I've had French toast my whole life, but I love it when it's made differently. Now I might go into my kitchen and try this.
And actually, like making it in the oven like this actually makes it even a little bit easier.
Oh my God, look at that. It's puffed up with perfection, Bobby.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Nice and custardy, don't you think?
Mm-hmm, that was good. Bobby, get all that goodness. Yes.
All right, I'm gonna take our strawberries.
Look at that.
You wanna taste this?
You know it, Bobby?
Here you go, miss.
Okay, I'm hyped. Oh, yeah. Oh, the orange liqueur actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Mmm.
Mmm.
Hollow out the bread. I'm gonna take the top right off. I'm just gonna pull all the inside of the bread out. Just brush the olive oil. And just a little bit on the edges of the bread as well. And even this, I put a little salt and pepper. Put the bread in the oven, 350 degrees, and just let it get nice and toasty. We're gonna start by cooking some sweet Italian sausage out of the casing with a little bit of canola oil. Let's crack some eggs. Gonna crack about, 10 eggs or so. Slice up some onions. I'm gonna julienne the peppers. Now these are red and green bell peppers. So we're gonna get our sausage out. I'm gonna throw our onions and peppers in here. Right into the fat from the sweet Italian sausage. And we just wanna soften, the peppers and the onions. So we have some parsley. I'm gonna grab some basil as well. Because of how the basil is nice and leafy, it's better just to kind of tear it. We just want this to be a little bit crunchy. Exactly, that's perfect. Okay, so we have our Calabrian chilies, and I'm only gonna take like 2 chilies. They're fairly spicy. Just chop them up. All right, so let's throw our sausage in there. Let's throw our chilies, and you wanna make sure that you chop them very fine because they can be very hot. And then some provolone cheese. Okay, we can throw our eggs right in here. And then parsley, the fresh basil, a little bit of the provolone. Just kind of mix this together. It's pretty, doesn't it? Just until the eggs begin to cook. So now, we're gonna put this in our toasted bread bowl. A little bit of provolone on top. And then some grated Parmesan as well. We're gonna put this in the broiler so that the heat comes from the top and just basically melts the cheese, creating a nice little crust on top. Kind of like a giant freeform sandwich in a way. All right, let's make some cheddar and bacon twists. Little Dijon. A splash of water. A little salt and pepper. And now we're gonna take some puff pastry. So we're just gonna roll this out a little bit, but it's actually pretty good width here. I'm gonna grate some white cheddar cheese, and I'm gonna put it on half of the puff pastry. A little salt and pepper. Okay, so we're gonna fold this over so that the cheese is inside. Just make sure it's nice and flat and even. All right, then we're gonna make some cuts. And then we're gonna twist the bacon onto the pastry. This is hickory smoked bacon. Apple smoked would work as well. So we're gonna take our egg wash, just paint our twists. With a little bit of crunch here, some sesame seeds and some poppy seeds. And the egg wash will help hold that together. 375 degrees for about 20 minutes. So we're taking some eggs and we're gonna put it in some water that just came to a boil. Gently drop them in there. For a soft cooked egg, we actually put it in water that's hot and bring it to a boil and then let it cook for 5.5 minutes. So I'm gonna take these over to the sink. I'm gonna pour out a lot of the water. I'm gonna pour some cold water over the egg so it stops it from cooking. Take an egg topper. See, it actually makes sort of an indentation of the egg there, and it should just come right off. Beautiful. And if you don't have an egg topper, just use a spoon, crack around the egg. It won't be perfect, but you'll get the top of the egg off, and then you can reach into the yolk. Yeah, so the egg is still very runny, and the white is cooked. And then what we're gonna do, dip the cheese and bacon twist right into the egg. You have the cheddar running through there, the crispy bacon, the crustiness from that light pastry, a little bit of those seeds on the outside, gives it a really nice color. I can eat 10 of these. A cup of flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, a little bit of salt, 3 tablespoons of sugar. So these are our dry ingredients. And wet, 2/3 cup of buttermilk, 1 egg, a little bit of vanilla extract, some melted butter, and then a little bit of orange zest. All right, so now I'm gonna put the wet into the dry. This is like a pancake batter. Spray that with a little canola oil. Then we're gonna use a tiny little ice cream scoop to fill our muffin. It measures out perfectly, so let's get these in the oven. Okay, 350 degrees, and these are gonna take only about 10 or 12 minutes because they're so small. All All right, so we're gonna brush the tops of our muffins with a little bit of butter. I'm just gonna make some cinnamon sugar. You know the recipe, cinnamon and sugar. And then we're just gonna roll our muffins as they cool in the cinnamon sugar, and we're gonna be good to go. So we're gonna drop our muffins into the cinnamon sugar. Just give them a roll. We need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a little bit of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. And those are our dry ingredients. For the wet ingredients, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and 1/4 cup of light brown sugar, 1 egg, and then a little toasted coconut as well, about 1/4 cup. Then we're going to smash up some very ripe bananas. You really want to crush them very well. Like I said, the riper the better. So we're going to put the wet ingredients all together here, and then we're going to put the brown butter into this, which is 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's been melted and browned. And then we're going to pour the wet into the dry. A little non-stick spray so that it doesn't stick. So 350 degrees for 45 to 55 minutes. We're gonna make a banana Foster sauce. And we're gonna start by putting a whole stick of butter in our pan, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. This is gonna make a beautiful caramel. And of course, banana Fosters won't be banana Fosters without bananas. So now we can slice up our bread. The banana bread should be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. And I'm gonna take some melted butter. And then a little bit of rum. You know, you can use any rum you want, but I think a darker rum is probably a better idea. Here we go. Get some flames going. Let the alcohol cook off. We want to let these cook for 5-6 minutes. And I just want to kind of hold it down because it's not going to get that crispy, but I want that indentation from the waffles. Then we're going to add a little cream to our sauce here, to our caramel. How good does that look? And then, of course, our bananas. Make sure they're nicely coated. Take it off the heat. Let's check on our waffles. Oh yeah, these look great. Banana Foster sauce right on top. A little confectioner's sugar. Sweet potato has been grated, and I've soaked it in salted water for about 15 to 20 minutes. And now I'm gonna drain it out in the colander. And there's gonna be a lot of water in here. Okay, so, and then I'm gonna take some cheesecloth as well, which is sort of the old school way to strain things. I'm gonna take some of our sweet potatoes and actually drain them even more. Watch how much water comes out of there. We want to dry off these sweet potatoes as much as possible. All right. I'm going to crack 2 eggs. All right, so let's see. Put some egg in there, a little bit of flour. I'm gonna grate a little bit of onion in there. And then some green onions as well. Some salt and pepper. All right, let's see what this looks like. Touch more flour. All right. These look good. Now we're gonna use a cast iron pan, or you can use a non-stick pan as well. And then some butter, a little canola oil. So the butter's gonna give it that sort of nice nutty flavor as the butter browns in the pan. and the canola oil has a higher burning point than, say, butter. All right, take a little batch and then press it down in the pan to form the pancake, so it's nice and level. And you don't want to crowd the pan. I think we could do like maybe 3 of these at a time. You don't want to make a lot that's too thick because you want them to get crispy, but you also want the potatoes to cook through. And then you basically only want to turn them one time. So we're gonna wait until they get sort of crusty around the edges before we start thinking about giving them a turn. Look at that, that's perfect. Nice and crispy. All right, so we're gonna put this in the oven. All right, I'm gonna poach an egg or two. A lot of people ask me the key to poaching eggs properly. Basically, it's one ingredient, vinegar. And that's gonna actually help the egg coagulate so that it will actually come together as opposed to like the white and the yellow sort of separating while it actually cooks. Some thin slices of ham. And I really want to slice this very thinly because we want to taste the sweet potato pancake. We don't want the ham to overwhelm it. All right, that should do it. And what I like to do with my poached egg is I want to get the water out. So I just put it on a paper towel and let them drain just for a second. And we can start plating. I'm gonna start by taking my sweet potato pancakes, put them on a plate. I'm gonna take some of the ham and then some of my jelly, my newly found hot pepper jelly. Just spread a little bit on top of the ham. And then our poached egg. A little fresh cracked pepper, a little salt. If you want to, you can actually make some sweet potato sandwiches out of it. I think that kind of looks pretty good.